I'm hoping I'm live. First of all, sound check. Anybody out there still? Anybody out there reading me yet? How is the sound? Is the sound doing good? I didn't ask last time. It turned out pretty good. I did everything that I normally do, so it should be okay. Let's see. We've got Brenda. Oh, we've got a whole bunch in early. I always appreciate the early birds. Been having a bit of a conversation with them as things have gone. I could have swore I turned that down. But a big congratulations. Who was it to? Was it? I think it's. Yeah, I'm betwixt and befuddled, folks. Ben Scheidegger. All right. He just let us know in the comments that I wanted to make sure, because when we're talking about this subject, you got to be sure, and I've been going back and forth typing to several of you as I've been setting up. All right. So congratulations on 6 years of sobriety to Ben Scheidegger. All right. I am a recovering alcoholic myself. All right, and will be 36 years sober this coming October 7th. Ben gave his date, and those of us who have been through that know how important that date is. And Ben is in long-term recovery, man. 6 years. Congratulations, Ben. I truly am so glad for you that you've been able to turn your life around, brother. What a wonderful feeling that is, isn't it? Meeting life on life's terms ain't an easy thing, but once you get past a certain time in sobriety, you start being able to embrace life again, right? So, congratulations. A big thank you to Oberheim Brendan from Down Under.
And speaking of Oberheim, he wanted me to ask you if you were on Rachel's stream this morning.
I was, yes. I even made a comment. We'll get to that, Brandon. I think I know what you're referring to. And I did make a comment from the Peanut Gallery, but I wasn't on screen or anything. But I want to thank you for your. Before the stream even started, we have a $7 super thanks from Oberheim. Now we're going to be talking about who is rock's top dead ringer band, and we're also going to be talking about our rock's dead ringer bands clogging up the works, and we're going to be talking about. A super thanks from the last stream. I forgot to bring up his comment, but I've got it here and I'm going to respond to it. I always try to respond to that. And I've got just cover a couple of things for channel business here as people, are falling into the stream. That way, when we start, there's no time limit tonight. I can just kind of go by the seat of my pants here. So let's let them, gather round the fire. And I did want to, kind of bring out a couple of things here. First of all, I wanted to correct a mistake I made when responding to Helene Spalding's comment. She had brought up Benny Goodman as an example in her comment. And if you want to know what it's all about, go back to my previous stream from last night. As a matter of fact, after you see this stream, go back to that stream and watch it, and then you'll get the whole idea of what the two streams are really all about. And she was talking about Benny Goodman, and then I started going off, and I had the story in my head of him. Perishing in a plane crash in World War II. And of course, I was thinking of Glenn Miller the whole time, but the mouth was slapping Benny Goodman. All right, so I apologize for that, Helene. She was probably ripping her hair out as I was responding to her comment. All right, and then I wanted to take up another person who gave us Michael Boswell, who gave us a super thanks. I see that. I see that. Bill Hawkins. Oh my goodness, man, he always comes in big, doesn't he? $20. Thank you, Bill. I certainly appreciate it, and I will get to your comment, or I'll have to be reading it on my next stream like I'm doing here with Michael's comment. All right, but I will get to it. I think this is the first time I made this kind of mistake, and again, my apologies go out to Michael. But he had made a comment because Michael doesn't always buy my end of the story, and that's why I cherish him as a tribal member here because I don't want just a bunch of yes people. I mean, if you agree with me, then yeah, tell me you agree with me. I'd like to feel like I'm not an island among men in my thoughts and everything. But if you don't, man, feel free to bring it up. And he said something very basic here. He said music is meant to be listened to, not some kind of purist club. We want to relax and hear the hits that we hear on the radio. Now, he also, got in touch with me on the replay, and he made a longer comment, and I like a lot of what he has to say here. I don't necessarily agree with him when I agree with a whole lot of what he has to say here, first of all. But there's places where we diverge, and I'll explain that after. I'm just going to read this in its totality. Okay, so it says, I posted on my super chat. I believe that rock music and basically any music was designed to be listened to. It isn't some purist thing we set on a pedestal and determine if it's true or not. It was meant to be listened to and enjoyed by all of those who like it. If someone wants to play to listen to a foreigner cover band, it's up to them. The ticket prices I have seen to watch the band in the higher seats are between 40 to 75 bucks. That's about the cost of a good night at a restaurant or a movie, so long as the band is honest about their participants. Then it's on the buyer to determine if they wish to buy a ticket. I saw Kiss End of the Road, and Paul Stanley was not at his best vocally, but they put on a heck of a show. I got to hear the hits just as I did over 20 years ago when I heard them with a different lead and drummer for the Lick It Up tour. They use backing tracks to assure the sound is as if you were listening to the radio, and I don't see that as a cheat. I want to hear that anyway. This isn't Willie Manilli where they attempted to deceive everyone. And there's several areas that I would diverge from that. But what a wonderful statement he's made to represent his side of the story. And I know when I get criticism all the time. People going, God, he's on a rant about that. And maybe it comes off that I'm being a purist. And there's probably a little purist in my black heart, to be honest with you. And maybe that comes from the fact that I was there at the beginning for a lot of this stuff. Now, I was at the tail end of that first generation of classic rock. I was very young. I was 9 years old when the Beatles landed, right? So that first generation of go out and buy an album, we're all 12 to 14 years old for the most part, and I missed that. But I had friends who had the album. I was listening to them, and like I said, I liked other uh, people even more than the Beatles when they first came out. The Beatle bug didn't bite me immediately. I was aware of them. I liked their songs, and I wasn't collecting albums until I was 12. Right. So, but a lot of this stuff I remember and I experienced firsthand, right? And during that first incarnation, that first generation, Michael, you would never have ever uh, got a band to replace hardly anyone. I'll give you an example. When the Stones kicked out Brian, there was an uproar and a half. Now they survived that, right? And kudos to them for it. But that was just releasing one single member from that band, and it was a dangerous move. There were pundits out there saying this is the end of the Stones, right? So there are times when your point of view is fine to a degree, except that I see that the fans you're talking about honesty here, right? All right. So when you're talking about honesty, let's be honest about that. how uh, upfront are they really, and how educated is your casual 18, 16 year old to 20 what mid 20s concert goer? What is their knowledge base, and are they just being fed the same old, right? And we also talked about the sparks that fly between the original members, keeping them also producing and giving us new product and creating their art. And when we have these kind of bands, I feel like that misses, Michael. But on the other hand, I understand every desire here, and I know many disagree with me, so I'm not overly, kerflumpled over the whole thing, or whatever the word is, right? But a very strong, and I pinned your comment to the top. So go to my last stream to rewatch it. And you'll see his comment, and you can, review it there and respond to it if you care to as well. All right. So next up, I did want to give shout outs for super thanks. We're just letting people get in, and then I'm going to take off and will remain the bulk of this stream, just taking off, under atomic power, right? Um, but let me get that screen up. I thought I had it up. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, here we go. Okay, got some good quotes for you too. All right, so last night, every boy, the star of the show was Ben Scheidegger. He not only upped his membership, which it makes him a tribal chieftain. He sent us a $10 super thanks, and then purchased for you fine folks 10 free memberships. And I'm going to give you guys a shout out as well as I'm going through this. All right. Uh, and you don't understand. That's a $50 gift right there. And of course, thank you. And then the others that gave us just as wonderful gifts. Bill Hawkins, $25. Thank you so much. Rockenberg, $2. Every $2 counts. I encourage people, don't if you see a large super thanks coming up and you're going, well, that's not good. I will respond just as quickly to your $2 as I will to 50 every single time. It's not a matter of the money. It's a matter that you're supporting the channel, and I want to give you as a immediate response as I possibly can. Deuces Wild, $20. Michael Boswell, of course, the $5, and we covered your super thanks, and I've made up for it, sort of. And I'm sorry I wasn't spot on with that, but then he followed it up with another $5, and I think I got to one of those comments, Michael. So a big thank you, and that leads to how many of you took advantage of that free membership? A whole lot of you, every single one of you, as a matter of fact. Plus, we got a membership in addition to that. Now, I just did a roll call for the channel's members on my last stream, so I'm not going to do that from the bottom. But if you watch that stream again, you'll see everybody else who's a channel member. But these are brand new channel members, all within the last 24 hours, actually. I was going to 0 days, 24 hours. Yeah. Our last member that had joined is P401. Of course, I know you're out there, and it's good to see you out there, P401. But brand new members, Ben Scheidegger, Greg Oberheim, and Ben Scheidegger, he was a member before, but he now is a tribal chieftain. All right, so we'll start with him again. Ben Scheidegger, Greg Oberheim, Brandon, how you doing? Tim Scarrow, Michael Boswell, able-bodied, the purple Sam Squatch. I love that. Bizarre Pudding. Yeah, that's pretty good, too. Stephen Schnee, one of my favorite content creators. He puts a lot into his channel. I encourage every single one of you to go over there and sub to his channel. He's a pro. I really, he does it all right. I haven't been typing in, but I've been lurking. Stephen, I've been so busy over here. And then Jennifer Andrews, and finally, Marco Esquandoles. Okay, Marco Esquandoles. All brand new tribal elders, and it will be my sincere effort. I'll be making sincere efforts to keep as many of you new tribal members around for as long as I can, because I'm going to tell you something. I am going to finish off my 5-part series where I'm kind of sharing my albums, but I make comments interspersed about different music formats, and I'm going to finish that off. But at the end of that, I'm going to be giving you guys a choice on what my next series, a 3 or 4 part series, is going to be about. All right. And when I do that, you guys can vote in the comments, and I will take that into consideration for my next members only mini series. And that's my approach of what I'm doing there. And I am slowly building up the ability to produce even more content than just one video a week. And sometimes I get 2 videos out a week there as well. But I've got to also, make my regular content on top of all of that, of course. Let's see. So I've got the new members. We got that announced. Yeah, okay, got that. All right. So that's channel business. So let's get back to what this stream is all about. We're going to be talking about the I guess I've overused the term so much it's ridiculous, but the dead ringer bands, bands who have been criticized for touring without their original members. Now, some of these bands will tour with 1, maybe 2 members, and many of them are touring with absolutely no original members. So keep in mind Michael's uh, comment on one side, because my viewpoint will probably go in a slightly different direction. All right. Now, the reason I'm going to be returning to the poll, I'm not going to revisit the whole poll. Okay. I covered everything up into, let's see, where was I? Part 4. We're going to discuss parts 5, 6, and 7. All right. And the current part of the poll that still can be changed is part 7. All right. You can still vote on these others. But once part 7 was fixated, that's all based on the prior polls. All right. We started off with 16 bands that tour without original members who have been criticized for doing that. And the question was posed as this: of the following bands who tour without their original members, which is the most guilty of not being who they claim to be? And we had a field of 16 bands, right? Well, starting with part 5, we went into the semifinals. So part 5 and part 6. And I am so sorry that I had to put these polls stacked on one another. It would have been better if I had gotten a day a head start. We would have had a whole lot, but we still have had clearly over 5,000 responses to this poll. So it's not a small poll by any chance. And in part 5, it was listed as this: semifinalists. Of the following bands who tour without their original members, which is the most guilty of not being who they claim to be? And the people in this field, are all of the bands that took second place. In other words, they were the bands that were secondly most accused of being not who they claimed to be. In other words, they were taken out by one other band, but there were 2 other bands that did not fare as badly as these. And this is the first time these 4 bands had to contend against each other. So keep that in mind when we go over this. In number 1 spot, and this wasn't true at first, but in the number 1 spot was the Eagles at 39. All right. 39 in the 39% in the semifinals here. In second place was Molly Hatchet with a 28%. All right, not too far behind. Third place was Yes with 19%, and Kansas got the save, right? Yes, too. At least they were kept out of the finals, and you definitely on this list want to be kept out of the finals if you're in any of these bands, right? But Kansas with 14%. Then we got to part six, the other part of the semifinals, and these are the bands that got the number one position in all of their categories. These are the bands that you guys voted for four times as being the most guilty of not being who they say they're going to be. All right. In number one, in that position, we got, well, first of all, we had the Guess Who, Little River Band, Leonard Skinner, and Foreigner. Number one, Foreigner, still showing extreme strength as being the biggest lying band on the planet, 46%. In second place, Leonard Skinnard at 35%. Little River Band in third place. It won its division, right? But against these contenders, it got a save, didn't it? And the Guess Who in last place with a mere 8%. And that was a winner in its category. But against these, people felt like they needed to make a statement against, obviously, Foreigner and Leonard Skinner. So the bands that got first and second place in the finals are in the finals, and here they are: Molly Hatchet, the Eagles, Foreigner, and Leonard Skinner. Now, I just put this portion of the poll out about 5 hours ago, and we've so far got about a little over 500 votes on it. With 500 votes, you kind of can see, I could see things changing between a couple of these bands, but I think we're almost seeing the winners here. You guys let me know. You can still vote and change this. And by the way, I will be announcing the total results of the poll on my next stream. Okay, so in first place, and being first place every time it seems, is Foreigner. Again, with an identical, oh no, even 2% more than the semifinals. All right, 48% of you saying they are guilty of being not who they claim to be. They're the most guilty, according to you. And in second place, and it didn't surprise me at all, Leonard Skinner with a 33%. Well, exactly a third of you voting for Leonard Skinner, who hasn't got anybody left unless you count Little Brother and his dancing band, right? In third place, and this surprised me though, here, the Eagles, which had been killing it all up and down the line. Oh my goodness, man, what a fake band. They come in at a distant third, at only 11% of you having a problem with them. And it's a good thing because they're going to be with us for a while. And then in last place, who did real extremely well in its own, category, now less of a problem to you when you have Foreigner and Leonard Skinner on the list, was Molly Hatchet at 7%. Can you believe that? All right. So now the other aspect I wanted to cover here was so we have these bands, right? And Michael brought out in his thing that that concert tickets. He has experienced concert tickets that are reasonably priced and everything, right? And that's all good. That's all good. $70 for an outer ring, to me, man, $70 should get you a lot closer to that. But $40, yeah, I guess. And yeah, by today's standards, with the real huge bands, you got the outer ring selling for 270. Looks pretty good, Michael. I'll admit that, right? But what do these bands make? I want to make sure I do this in a good order here. Yeah, let's see. Right. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. Okay, so what do these bands make? And I don't recall, what were the was it the Foreigner show you were showing that you were discussing, Michael? Uh, what does Foreigner make? Because I've claimed they make the big bucks, right? As touring bands, right? Well, Foreigner's not exactly the biggest bucks. They're not making like what a McCartney makes. They're not making what Bruce Springsteen makes, and they're not making, as we will find out, what other bands are making. But just to get them, their shows, they usually charge anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. So a third to a $500,000 per show. Now add that up. Yeah, I got to get to these comments, huh, babe? Hi, Dan. Oh, $10. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You're salve to an old man's heart, brother. I appreciate it. And I need to get to the other comment here. I kind of see, I get going, folks. But 500,000 a show. How many shows are they doing? Well, they're touring South America. I would imagine they'll hit Central America, a couple of spots up in Mexico. You know, they're up, then they're in the US, then they're going to Canada. 500,000 a show. And this is what leaks out. This is the information that leaks out. I can guarantee you this is not all that they're making, but let's go with the low line. Let's say $300,000 a show, and not a single one of them, with the exception of now Lou Gramm, who has just announced he's actually going to continue to tour with him. I don't know if that means he's going to show up in the U.S. and do a 4-song duet with uh, you know, who is it? Kelly Hansen, or not? But he is. Yeah, he was dead and gone. He was the last thing we heard is I'm going to do these few shows with Foreigner and then I'm out of here. And he had been announcing this. He was on his farewell tour and all of that. Now he's booked through 2027, folks. 2027, and he's not in the show long enough to give it any kind of real pedigree for me, you know. However, if I only had to pay, $50 to see them, just to see Lou Gramm, it might be cool, but I wouldn't be thinking I'm going to see Foreigner. All right. So what about let's see, Molly Hatchet, who, you know, they didn't get a whole lot of votes in this last part, right? 40,000 to 74,000. Well, in 99, so 75,000, 75 grand a show. All right. Pop up 2 dozen of those. What does that mean to you? You know, we're talking over $1 million, million and a half, by a band that doesn't have a single member left. That's quite a good living, I would say. That puts you up above a doctor's pay, right? Lawyer's pay, I would imagine. So they may not be the king of the heap, but they're still turning out there. Now, again, we get back to Michael, who might want to go see Molly Hatchet, and they sound just like Molly Hatchet. He's not even uh, turned off by backing tracks. He wants to hear it like the albums are. And I think that's true of a lot of people who go and see concerts. Just make it sound like the record, and I'll take my wife, or my husband and I will go to dinner afterwards in a sea of bliss and have the greatest night of our life. And if that's what you want, that's what you'll get from this. I would go and go, great cover band, but I could probably see just as good a cover band at any good sized city in the United States of America covering Molly Hatchet, right? And so I start weighing the cost and everything. But see, I've got that damned problem again. I'm actually educated about some of the music and some of the musicians up there. And that kind of gets in the way of a good time for me. We were talking about, I know we covered Foreigners. All right. Leonard Skinner, they go for every single time exceeding $500,000. Their 2018 hometown show grossed $3,768,307, right? And so their average, what was it? It says, and their average gross over the previous 3 years was 539,754. So the special event concerts make a whole lot, but it sounds like they're making a good living. Only problem is, where's Leonard Skinner? I don't see him. Um, I mean, there's a lineage there because of the way they brought on, their singer and everything. But no, it should have folded with the death of Gary Rosington. And then we get up to bands that are really making it. Okay, we're talking like a McCartney or a Springsteen or the Eagles. Now the Eagles did real well until they got to the finals, right? Everybody's got this hard on for the top two pieces. I think didn't they come in third place? You guys can find out. Uh, but here's what they make per concert, and keep in mind this: they make $3.5 million per concert. All right, the Eagles grossed approximately $3.5 million a show on their Hotel California tour. Now, we've talked about residencies. We've talked about the Las Vegas Sphere. I just recently said how the Las Vegas Sphere is losing money over hand over foot type of thing, and that the whole thing, the only successful show residency they've had there that actually made the Sphere money. They immediately lost money after that, and so it didn't save the day, but was for the U2 residency. The Eagles have been there. They just signed up for more shows at the LA or the Las Vegas Sphere, and at the end of the year. And they almost make it sound like sayonara, but it's just the last shows of the year. They kind of tag that on at the end. So this is very serious money, folks. Keep that in mind. So when we're talking about this, understand there is a reason why people come out of retirement. There is a reason why Lou Gramm has decided to extend the tour. They've added, he's basically doing what Mick Jones did before him, showing up for just a portion of the show. He's probably limoed in, show's been going on. I don't know how long their show is, but let's say an hour and a half before he even shows up. And, you know, and then he saunters out on stage. His voice is sounding better because of that. It would be the best way for him to showcase his voice. And like I said, I'd be interested in watch or seeing him. All right, let me get to these super thanks. Got Dan's. Where did the other one go? Oh my goodness. Did I wait too long? Oh Lord. Ah, gee, Bill Hawkins, I am so sorry. But here's one. I'll pick up something that Bill Hawkins has said. He says, I've paid good money to see the Australian Pink Floyd and the musical box, but I knew what it was I think he says going in, and was thoroughly entertained. And I would be too. I've said I've already made the perfect, fantasy band name for a good Foreigner cover band or tribute band. I think they should call themselves Foreigner's Ghosts. They got to use the word foreigner, and yet by it calling itself Foreigner's Ghost, just a wisp of what the real Foreigner was, which is the actual creators of the music. I think it's the perfect name, right? And I'd love to become a fan of a great tribute band. And why can't we just be that honest and just, okay, that way? And you know what? Another thing Michael was talking about being honest, another thing they might consider doing is adding to the ticket, not the original Foreigner, or all members of Foreigner, with the exception of Lou Gramm, are not the original members who originally produced this music. And even if it was in fine print somewhere, at least that would be something to make it more honest. So I don't know. What do you guys think? It'll be interesting. I want to get in here. I want to see Dan's you, I just got too late because I can see Dan's is already floated way up, and I don't see. Let me see if there's a way I can do this that would show everything I need to know here. All messages. Let's try that. Let's see if I can still scoop that up. Damn it, it's just not going to let me. I guess it has a time limit. But Dan, just the facts man says, hats off to Kimberly for doing a great job as producer of this stream. Both of you together make this a very informative show.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
Isn't that great, man? Yeah.
Everybody's so great.
Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, if Kimberly's been a little quiet tonight, she's looking for a dastardly felon who's been going around. And I think was it Brandon that asked me earlier about where was I on Rachel's stream? I watched it, and like a few of you in the comment section have told me on my last night's stream, evidently while I was on Royce's channel uh, a Michael Noland. I'm not sure if he's calling himself Michael Noland, the bottom line. I didn't see the icon or everything. And he's coming in, and making very negative comments. Evidently, the guy dreams of me at night,
Okay.
And,
Okay.
just focuses on me and just. He wakes up in the morning. What can I do? And it's sad. So she's been looking for any appearances from said villain. And if you see any obvious troll remarks during any of my streams, all of you who are my Dan, this includes you, Richard Mueller, Deuces Wild. I'm just looking. Divining Dragon, my wife, Oberheim, are just coming to mind right now. People who are, and Michael, show up early. I'll make you a moderator too. I notice you're a member. You should be a moderator. If you see anything, give them, especially somebody claiming to be me. It's not me. All right. Just give them an 86,000, then bring it up. Right, Kimberly, if you see anybody bringing that up, I will live on the air right here tonight, right now, report their ass because I'm not going to put up with any of the shenanigans. And the said asshole, also showed up over on Rachel's. She took him off immediately. I think Sue did. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate that. And like I said, some people just are born trolls, and they're the ones that. Did you hear about Kathy's ex-wife? That kind of crap, right? And they live and breathe to cause disharmony, and it's sad. All right, very sad. Okay, so let's see. Michael Boswell, I can confirm that 300K to 500K per show for Foreigner. Just looked it up. Okay, good. I'm glad we concur, Michael. Michael's very fair-minded, even if we don't always agree. That's why I respect everything that he has to say, and I hope you did feel the respect when I covered your comment, Michael. Bill Hawkins. Um, to see, oh, okay, I just covered that one. I wish I could get to your super thanks comment. I will read it on my next stream, Bill, because it comes up when I go to my YouTube studio after everything's done. I just saw that. Storm Cop, good Lord. With a shutdown grand slam, it looks like. But Bill, I will read your comment. All right. Good Lord, James, what have you done here? Sorry, I'm running a little late. James reminds me of John Wayne. I'm not gonna hit him.
He comes in a big.
I'm not gonna hit him. Like hell, I'm not gonna. Man, smack right in the face with a $50 super thanks, James. Wow. What can I say? Thank you so much. We miss you when you can't get on here in time. And everybody's got their own private hell to deal with, their own when they can join. What's that, babe?
We missed him last night.
Yeah, she, Kimberly notices there's like 10 or 11 of you that just kind of keep.
All of them, all the regular people, boy.
Yeah.
They're here. They're really supportive.
I hope you guys are hearing that. She goes, all the regular people, all of them, you guys blow her away. you know. And without her help and doing this and handling that, because I do spend time away from your comments, don't I? But
Everybody
that's
does.
part of what I've always kind of provided on the channel is my thoughts, and then we open it up. My thoughts on my videos, and then I open it up for the comments. I invite you to disagree with me in all of my videos. It doesn't matter whether we disagree. We all like rock. Michael Boswell wants rock to survive. And he thinks that's part of the survival of rock. And he gives a damn good reasoning behind those thoughts. Guess what, Michael? I want rock to survive as well. Yeah, we just have slightly different approaches. And who knows? Maybe the dialogue that this channel creates, you never know who's watching. I've said that before so many freaking times. Storm Cop, you were amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, James. James goes back. Wow, he's like what? About a year and a half ago, he was the first one to come up with a mega uh, uh, super thanks, and it just blew me out of the water and helped me buy a piece of equipment for the studio. And he knows that story, and some of you do too as well. Ben Scheidecker, the reason these older bands are allowed too is that newer bands are not quality from what I have heard. And, I was going to respond to that, Michael, or I was going to mention that. What about Dirty Honey? Now, I'm aware of their two albums, all right, and they're both ass kicking bands who should be out there touring and making at least 200 grand a show. uh, they've got it. They've got all the chops. They've got the melody. They've got the kick-ass sound. They've got a great vocalist, great musicians. Everything sounds ass-kicking. The last time I was this impressed with a band was Montrose's first album. They just sound that kick-ass fresh, right? If there's a freshness to it. What about Rival Sons? They've got an urgency and a message as well. I brought up Dorothy, right? And more lesser and lesser degree, Greta Van Fleet. I think they need to get back to the basics and quit apologizing for having a lot of their roots with Led Zeppelin and just take it from there. So many other bands took their roots from the Beatles. Nobody gave them a big problem over that, right? So that would be my only problem. And yes, when you see that the other acts that are challenging these big classic rock bands are like hip hop artists or singles artists that to me have nothing to do with rock and roll. All right. Taylor Swift, my ass, she does well. She's selling out all over the place, I guess. But what does she have to offer? And so there's this bottlenecking that happens, and that's my point on all of these things. Is bands like Dirty Honey, Rival Sons, Dorothy, Greta. Well, Greta's kind of graduating now. They're getting more per concert, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe they are growing their audience and becoming more popular to a younger crowd. I don't understand, but they've become a lot less organic sounding than their first couple of outings, and their second outing wasn't nowhere near as good as that EP. Man, that EP is a masterpiece. Matter of fact, I'm conducting. I got to write that in my notes. All right. Greta Van Fleet's first EP is a masterpiece, and that's going to be a change.
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness, Deuce is wild. Thank you so much, brother. Oh, let me see here. I think we can appreciate the cover bands when the actual bands can't hack it anymore. Rival Sons need to take me up the man. Need to be taken up the mantle. Is that it? They should be top dog. I think you've said that before, Deuces, and I am a fan. I love them. These are bands that should be at the top, but when you have a bloating and a traveling jukebox like Foreigner. I mean, my God, everybody's going to be tempted by, oh yeah, I love Hot Blooded, whatever their favorite song, or if it's Journey or Kansas or Boston or anything, I want to hear Carry On Wayward Son,
That's power. That's a powerful magnet. But if we were a society that was saying, no, now it's time for the tribute bands to take over and, put on like the original Beatlemania. We had four ringers up there. They played it in theaters. I went twice in San Francisco. And then when it came to my town as a traveling act, a couple of the original members weren't there by that time, but a couple were. I loved it. I loved it. I knew it wasn't the Beatles, but I drew in the whole illusion. Let's have that and keep it live. We don't need the illusion of avatars. We're losing our humanity, right? But thank you very much, Deuces Wild, for your super thanks. Let's take a look. I want to get up here, see if I can cover some of these uh, cover a lot more than I did last time. Let's see. Christian, Divining Dragon, 62 watching. Hey, well, we've lost a few. That's okay from our peak. It'll come and go, I'm sure. 40 likes, which are now at 52. So we'll get a bump up in playback and on replay. You know, definitely that'll help with views. Thank you so much. If we can get 48 more, is there no end to his demands, right? But if we can get 48 more, it'll even get more views than that. And you never know. With both of these streams kind of tethered together, this stream may help views on the other, and the other's already reached close to 1,000 views at my last peruse. All right, just under 1,000 views already. So that was wonderful, and we had over 90 people show up for that stream. Right, and it's a traditional night. People know I'm going to be on, so I'm going to maybe gather more people on those nights. I'm still trying to figure this out. David L., first time I've noticed your name, David. Welcome. Awesome. Just the facts. Yep, Timberly kicks butt on these. I agree, brother. I agree. I married up. You know, every single young man should know that. Marry up. You know, never marry down. Marry up. And I certainly did. I love her to death. Bill Hawkins. Okay, yeah, I already covered that. 17 Nutsbound Road. They play casinos more than anything. No way casinos paying 300K. You Google that? No, I didn't, Nutsbound Road. But I did get that information that that's basically what they do. Maybe they're not playing as many casinos as you think they are when you add their other shows. I don't know. It was a report on the average of what that band makes every year. That's what I was reporting. If you know more, let me know. I'm just reporting on what I looked up and kind of kept in my notes and everything. I'm not trying to build a false scenario here or anything. I'm really trying. If I'm wrong about something, I'll admit it. No problem there. Let's see. Who else do we have here? If you had all the original guys and no Lou Graham, it still wouldn't be Foreigner. Yeah, well, yeah. Lou Graham was integral to the band. And to tell you the truth, he's my favorite member out of the original group of fellas, you know. And I understand that. Somebody in the last stream said, hey, no Steve, no Foghat. And you go, yeah, I guess so. I'm not sure that's true with Foreigner. But and then what would I think about it if Mick Jones and Lou Graham were still doing it and then the rest were replacements? I'd probably still call it a fake band because I don't consider Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey the Who. I saw the Who. I know who the Who are. I watched them. So plain and simple. I know who the Who are. I ain't the Who. It's that old. I knew John Kennedy, and you, sir, are no John F. Kennedy. That famous thing. Royce, it's good to see you in the Peanut Gallery. I didn't know you were there. Let's see, Dan, you are amazing, brother. I love this.
I know.
Let's see. Deuces Wild, Zoom Zoom. I feel that way, especially if an actual band are not the same anymore, and the tribute band actually sounds more like them. And I've heard tribute bands that sound more like original bands, especially those who aren't sounding so good, right? I've heard some great uh, tribute bands. You know, we used to do. I guess the difference is back in my day, we did. I guess didn't have the traditional tribute bands. Although I was in what would have been considered a tribute band after my first incarnation, and then I went away for about 10 years and came back. And I was actually in a Beatles cover band. All right, and basically, we didn't dress up like the Beatles. I don't look like one of the Beatles or anything like that. The whole idea was just to do, you know, 100% Beatle, and we made some good money on that. So that's the closest thing to a tribute band. Tribute bands often dress it up, try to present themselves as the band, or at the very least, play exactly like the band. And if that's identifying a tribute band, then that's what we did in the Beatles group, right? The only time I ever did, yeah, to me in my day, it was cover bands, right? But cover bands usually did anything that was a hit. You know, 1 second they're doing "Can't Get Enough" by Bad Company. The next second they're doing, Rhiannon by, Fleetwood Mac, right? So those were the cover bands, and then I was usually in what they called an original band, harder to get gigs, and the divier sometimes the venues were. But I was bound and determined I wanted to do my own music, right? And all the bands that I grew up with all did that. That's how they did it. That was my blueprint. That's what I wanted. I could have made a hell of a lot more money covering, great music. We always did a couple of covers. I remember we did One of These Nights, by the Eagles. Can't Get Enough. We'd add that. You'd have to add 3, 4 cover songs to pepper about the same amount of your original songs. That's kind of how I peddled myself. Tried to, sneak my way in through the back door there. Richard Mueller, most of them in Foreigner are hired guns, aren't they? I doubt they're getting anywhere's near an equal cut and pay. I would imagine not. I would imagine the big guy that's getting the largest piece of the pie would be Mick Jones. Didn't he wind up with the ownership? Lou Gramm doesn't have ownership of it. I don't know if he has any rights to it. Maybe he's got some rights as far as songwriting and things like that. There may be some off things he's fed through what he's done in the past that I'm not with Foreigner that I'm not aware of. But it kind of goes into Mick Jones' pocket, I think. Now to get Lou Gramm up there, how much did Mick pay him? Right? Certainly, Lou Gramm for 4 songs should be paid more than anybody else on stage doing the entire show, in my opinion. Yeah, he's the only one with pedigree. Yeah. So what do you do? But good point, Richard. Let's see. Did I cover Newsbound there?
Uh, Bill Hawkins is asking, "Hey Michael, what's that purple thing next to your right?"
Right here? Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe the globe.
Oh, that's my magic. Uh, that's my magic ball.
Yes.
I peer into it and come up with the facts I give you. One of you right now are going, yeah, right. That explains the so-called facts. Yeah, as a matter of fact, who was it? It was where was it? Nosbound. Who was it? You that was kind of questioning whether Foreigner. What band was it that was playing mainly casinos and everything? Uh, so yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, I've seen bands that make a decent living right up there, in the Molly Hatchet range, playing fairgrounds. So I would imagine the casinos pay a little bit more than fairs, and yet we see people coming out of the woodwork to play fairs. So they've learned to make a living off of just following the season, man. One of those. Well, we talked about that last night. First time watching a live chat, really enjoying it. HMAO. Well, welcome. As a matter of fact, if you like what you're seeing here, hit that subscribe to the tribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you'll be notified of all my future videos and streams, folks. Streams. Let's see, who else do we have here? Um, they play casinos more than anything. Okay, yeah, it was Nussbaum Road. And then I thought I saw another one where he was talking about, yeah, casinos bring them in covering costs to bring in more gamblers. Yeah, that's how that whole system works, right? I mean, when you think about it, they bring in the fairground acts for the same thing, you know. Oh, so and so's going to be there. Let's go. You got to go through the main pavilion, got to buy a leather jacket or a Vegematic or whatever they're selling these days. Have to have your handwriting analyzed.
No, Michael
Oh, I saw that.
Boswell.
Michael
How
Boswell,
sweet.
$5. Oh,
So sweet.
so I guess I'm not hurting your feelings too much, Michael,
God, everybody's the
today.
best here.
Oh, they have been, babe. You're absolutely so right. Did I cover that last one, Deuces? I think we can when the actual bands hack it anymore, rival set. Yeah, I did cover the last one from Deuces Wild. Okay, so let me get down to Michael. I guess we're still friends, Michael. I love that. I love that we can have a relationship, between a content creator and their viewers, right? Where, look, we don't have to agree on anything. As a matter of fact, we kind of cut our teeth on each other. That's how I learn. I kind of argue or make my point. Somebody else can, and then I think, well, he did have a good point there, and I will either modify my stance, change it, or I'll say, well, no, that's not quite enough info for me to veer off to this direction, right? But that's humanity, man. That's the way it should be, right? Michael Boswell says you get the snobbery of rock, example Jefferson Airplane, Starship to Starship, but you won't see them refusing a royalty check. That's so true. So true. It's a business. I mean, this is what we're getting down to, Michael, right? Isn't it? It's a business after all. And you can't trust a musician to ever spend their money wisely. I can tell you that from personal experience and personal connections with a whole lot of other musicians. We may have the equipment that we need, but we're not often in the best of financial situations. That's kind of the way you become almost a gypsy to your art, right? And so when these people like Hart come along and they're making the big ticket items, and you wonder why. Which one is it? There's Nancy and there's who else? Nancy and the sisters, babe.
I'm
Hart.
sorry. For who?
Ann Wilson.
Ann Wilson.
Yeah, pay attention now, darling. Uh, and so you have Ann Wilson, all white haired,
Ann and Nancy Wilson.
obese, and I'm not saying I know she's got issues around that. That's not the big turnoff, but obese and out of shape and in a wheelchair, which is not a good position to be in, especially for her type of vocals. You have to have your diaphragm. You have to project from your diaphragm. So we're not getting her best vocals. And people have been saying she hasn't been singing as well for a long time now. And why are they wheeling her out on stage? As a matter of fact, I wanted to go over other bands. I fielded 16 bands for you folks. What's that, darling?
Oh, no, it's okay, hon.
Okay.
It's okay.
She's over there. Damn this thing, Jim.
No,
I'm a wife, not a doctor.
There was a Michael Noland in the comments. Yeah.
Oh, there was? Today?
Somebody got rid of him. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Time them out next time so that I can give them a personal bit of attention. But thank you. So Mikey Pooh showed up, did he?
Yeah.
A fallacy, I say. A fallacy.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't. I'm telling you, man, don't. All right. So other bands that I could have chosen instead of those 16 bands that are getting a lot of criticism for not touring with original members and have recently toured. None of these that I'm aware of have made any final, this time for sure, announcement of cessation. So if they're not currently touring, they will be by this time next year. All right. How about Quiet Riot? How about Rat? How about now? There's a couple here that I've never heard of. Napalm Death, Cattle Decapitation, In Flames, Hour of Penance, The 69 Eyes. That sounds like a freaking story. This is the story of a napalm death and a Christian death, of cattle decapitation, cattle in flames, in our hour of penance, as observed by 69 eyes, which includes an audience of at least a one-eyed man, and we all know what that adage brings to mind. A one-eyed man is a king in the world of the blind. But what about see where my mind goes, folks? I told you, Helene. All right, I told you my brain goes crazy. The Pointer Sisters, Renaissance, Heart. Okay, and you go, wait a minute, the sisters are there. Yeah, well, there was Heart before the sisters, and the ones that were there before the sisters and then brought them in are no longer there. So is that Heart? I never thought of it. I like the original Heart for me. All right, but some people go, well, where the Wilson sisters go, there goes my heartbeat. And okay, more power to you if you believe that. I see them as a rather stripped down band and a former shell of themselves, with only Nancy really showing the ability to perform semi on the level that she used to. Great energy. Every time I see her, it's like, man, she's like a wind up bunny, Duracell bunny. She just won't stop. Thin Lizzy. What about the Grassroots? We talked about them on my last stream. Rage Against the Machine, Blackfoot, Sepultura, and The Strokes. There are an additional 17 bands right there over the 16 that I talked about in my last stream, and bands that I'm not aware of. It's either Gawar or G-War. I'm not sure here. It's an American heavy metal experience rather than a band with a constant rotation of musicians, artists, and filmmakers. Now, I love the whole multimedia approach. I'm going to have to look up more about them. But evidently, there was a core of them that was heavily identified. A lot of people, I guess they're out there doing it. It's not quite the core anymore. I'll have to look more into that. And someone tell me how to pronounce that. Anybody aware of it's pronounced? It's spelled Gwar. Okay, it's either Gwar, or G-War. It'd be cool if it was G-War. That sounds kind of cool. G-War, is it G-War, Nospo? Or Gwar? Gwar. Hi, I'm Gwar from the planet wherever, right? And then how about Opeth, a Swedish progressive metal band with no original members since 1993. All right? That's 32 years. So they've been touring for three and a third decades without a single original member. But they're out there making money.
Caitlin says it's pronounced guar.
One word, Gwar. Gwar. It sounds like I'm sorry, Captain. We've been attacked by the Gwar. That's cool. I like it. I've got to do some more info on them. Do you have any information you can share within a comment there, Caitlin? If you're more aware of that, and it's good to see you out there. It's good to see Vance
See if it worked,
out there. Not G-War, Vance says. All right. You didn't need to shout, Vance. I understand. Okay, I got it wrong. Yep, it's Gwar, David L. says. Anything else? Opeth Kicks. All right, because I'm not aware of them. I'm not aware of them. And why is it that are they making new music, or are they just kind of touring the same old stuff? I'm not aware of them at all. Progressive metal, I'd be open to listening to that. Maybe you guys can let me know. Art Smolsky, it's good to see you, Art. Welcome. Don't look up Guar. There
Caitlin,
is a curse to it. Don't look it up.
Caitlin said War is a face smacking wild band.
Face smacking wild band. So
Yeah.
they because when I looked it up, the only kind of quick description I could find was that they are a heavy metal experience with a constant rotation of musicians, artists, and filmmakers. So I like that idea. Let's do some. I've been saying that on this channel from early on. We need to embrace a multimedia approach. Maybe some of the ass kicking bands could kind of adopt some of that, uh, because the grassroots rock and roll is always going to sell.
You just got it.
White Monkey,
White
where you
Monkey's
been,
in the
brother?
house. White Monkey's in
White Monkey, the channel that no one subs to.
Okay.
Damn it!
I did.
Get on over there. I'm a sub. I sub to White Monkey, don't you?
Yeah.
Everybody in the know. Hey, come on, guys, get on over there and sub to him. He's got great content.
So-
He's wacky, just like me. I love him. What does he say? Good evening, all. Just got here. I just finished listening to the Monkees' first 5 studio albums today. The records are smashing. I know I'm off topic. Yeah, well, you can always bring up the Monkees here, and Caitlin will carry on a an entire encyclopedia of conversation with you when you talk about the Monkees. And I could talk Monkees quite a bit myself. That's one of the bands that Caitlin and I both love a lot. She loves the Monkees. I love the Monkees. She loves Alice Cooper. I love Alice Cooper. Where we differ, that doesn't matter. There's some solid stuff that Caitlin and I always agree on. Their costumes are out of this world. You're talking about Guar, right?
Yeah.
And so are their performances. Have fun looking them up on YouTube. I'm going to. Matter of fact, I'll do that tonight, Caitlin. You've perked my curiosity. What the hell do you do? So you've got all these bands, and you've got a lot of money on the table, and that is the whole point of my card that you clicked on. Are these ringer bands gumming up the works, or what was the word I used? I forget. Clogging, I think I used. Clogging up the works. And when I say that, keep this in mind. All that money they're making, they're the ones that the venues want, right? One way or another. They're the ones that have the connection to Ticketmaster, Live Nation, all the usual suspects. They're the ones that are more likely, especially at this time in life, with a newly and reinvented Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to even get nominated, right? They're the ones that someone wants to do a special on 60 Minutes with. They're the ones that the top radio hosts, satellite radio, they're the ones that they want to talk to. So they have an in right at the beginning, and they have a demand level based on their popularity and what they have to offer. And we can see even the more store earnings like Molly Hatchet. You can still make a damn good living and not have a single member up there that actually made the music, right? So we have this bottleneck that has occurred, and that's what I mean. That's one of the dangers that I see with tribute bands who actually call themselves, because that's Foreigner, that actually call them by the original name. I think there's a lack of education with a lot of younger folks, and a lack of interest. They like the hits, but when I was a kid, we bought into the lifestyle. We bought into the magic. We're down at Thrifty Drugs or Safeway, looking at the magazines that the Beatles were in. Oh, Led Zeppelin, what are we here? Mud Shark? Yeah, and it was exciting, and news reporters were following Led Zeppelin now as they're going down to Madison Square Garden, and evidently someone stole $250,000. Ooh, it's all over the news. Is Paul McCartney dead? All of this stuff was big time. If all of that had happened today, if were that to happen today, the alternative version of all of that would be it'd be all over YouTube every second of the day. And what do we get? Do we get every second of the day coverings from? And you can name your favorite bands. I named just a few of the ones that I'm following currently, right? But name a few of your bands. How much every second of the day are you seeing Dirty Honey videos? Because the internet, YouTube, the various different social platforms are the new Inquirer. Inquiring minds want to know. They are the new 60 Minutes, right? Everything happening here. I'm a proponent of those bands: Rival Sons, Dorothy, Dirty Honey, Greta Van Fleet were the four examples I use. And I don't mention them every video. A lot of my fellow content creators don't mention them at all. All right. But if the bottleneck wasn't choked up and we could all kind of talk in a sense of history about these bands and codify them and bring them within the realms of an understood art form and then open up for new blood, there could be yet, if not the resurgence of rock and roll that we had with the landing of the Beatles in the 60s, certainly some sort of resurgence and perhaps even extended lifetime. But what we're seeing, in my opinion, is a funeral parade. Those kind of funerals you're down in New Orleans, right? Like To Live and Let Die, and we parade the corpse out there for all to see, and we're all having a party. Because you know what? It gets down to that, too. This is my last time to see him. That's why I wanted to see him. Why? Well, because he could die and drop dead any moment. And it is true. It seems like every year, and this is going to be true, every single year, we have even more classic rockers die than we did last year. And this has been going on for a decade, and, they're getting older. We all are, aren't we? So how do we want to leave this, especially for us who are a little bit older, who saw the first wave of, actually, there's people who are a little older than me who saw the true first wave of rock, 1955. That was the year I was born, right? 1955, Rock Around the Clock, Elvis hits, he's big, all that time. As a little tyke, I kind of grew up on the Everly Brothers that kind of came out of that genre, and Johnny Cash, and that was my end to a core development of music. And then I discovered rock and roll right around 1964, right? So there's a group of people that are 10 years older than me, still alive, still maybe some of you watching this right now, who were the original. Yeah, I used to tool 4th Street, man. Yeah, we listened to Del Shannon, dude. My boyfriend's back. You're gonna be in trouble, man. Is rock and roll, but with the landing of the Beatles, that's me. And then what if you grew up in the 70s? And what is that? Because that's an amazing decade, equal to the 60s in every possible way. And then what about if you grew up and you were a teenager in the 80s, and discovering some of these bands? But, even those who grew up in the 80s, they had a ton of information, but it was a different world then, That's why informational videos, generally, when you talk about rock and roll, they don't do as well as, so-and-so's feuding with such and such this week. And I'd rather make videos like that. I see that. White Monkeys to the rescue again. Another $2. Thank you, brother. Number one song the week I was born was Ticket to Ride. Oh, God, I was in junior high when that song hit. And I got to tell you, I just lived and breathed Ticket to Ride for like 3 months. John's delivery. I love his delivery. It's almost a delayed delivery. I think I'm gonna be sad.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think it's to, and then there's this, almost what did they call it, Eddie and the Cruisers, a Cicera, a pause. Yeah. Oh God, what a great song. Great choice, White Monkey. Wow, what a week to be born, right? So you're second generation, right? Yeah, you experienced probably the mid to late 70s, early 80s, and so you'll have a different perspective. But what about those who were born, say, the year of my youngest daughter, who around 2000? I'm not going to give you the exact year, but around 2000, right? They've been alive for about 25 years. Okay, what's there? Everything's on online. Uh, the dance videos, the dance artists, the Super Bowl in their generation, all going using backing tracks. My God, what a joke that's become, right? Uh, Video games. Musicians writing specifically for video games, a lot of young males driven. I know there's a lot of females in the video game too, but it's still, I think, predominantly male uh, kind of a thing. Uh, my two 18-year-old nephews are in the next room right now gaming, right this very second, right? And they can tell you about the music behind this game or that game or whatever, and so and the music has become so all encompassing that older video players used to pump in their music and turn down the sound and just point and shoot type of thing, or race, or whatever it is that they're doing. And so that's become a thing, and that is a disconnection from the real world when you're doing that more than you're out in the sunshine enjoying the day. By the way, today was the first day we actually had semi-summer weather, and we live in a desert town where we endure as early as February 90 degrees to anywhere up to triple digits, and I mean like 111, right? It's right in the middle of the big valley. There's tons of orchards here, but all the water is either canaled in, and all the people are either trained out. We're a train town, we're a train canal town, and right a block and a half from me are orchards, and 3 blocks that way are cherry blossoms, or well, they were. I think they've all died down now. We got them early this year, right? So, how is your weather today, folks? That's what, because today I'll tell you, it's the first day I got out. God, took off my shirt and did some walking. Feel the sun, on me. And the only thing that happens is also when it starts creeping up. We got 86 today. It's going to hit in the 90s here for a couple of days and then cease. We're having a very mild summer so far. I don't know how you guys have. I've heard from the East Coast there's a lot of late, time raining. There's still raining and storms and not great days, low temps and all of that. If I'm wrong, let me know. Roy says Ticket to Ride is a song about a woman leaving her boyfriend to become a prostitute. The ride was slang for having sex. Yeah. Well, I've heard John talk about it. I've heard about 3 or 4 different stories on that. But let's stick with Royce's tonight. It sounds so dramatic. I want to see the movie, Royce. Can you imagine? Starring Gina, Lola, Brigida. Okay, we'd have to time travel for that to be a watchable movie. Let's see. Deuce is Wild. Nazareth is so massive in my book. I love him too. Dan McCafferty was a true original. The first to sing with that raspy, powerful, hard-hitting voice. I love that. Predating Brian Johnson, not taking anything away from him at all. Yeah, I agree. Great voice. To me, what you're talking about is vocal character, right? When you hear of it, for me, when I like a singer, I listen to I like a range, but I'm not listening for a John Anderson range. I'm a John Anderson fan, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking for a range that I can kind of approximate in the shower. Okay, that I can almost hit. I don't mind if okay, there's those three notes he can hit I can't hit. But I like a little bit of a range. I like a little bit of a rasp. I like a staggered, interesting presentation when you play with the notes and when you present them and hiccups and things like that. That's what I look like or look for in vocalists. And I think Nazareth was a band that delivered all that, man. Uh, Royce has still got me thinking about the Ticket to Ride start. He did it to cause me trouble. You did, Royce. Admit it. You're out there causing trouble for me with your silly Ticket to Ride story, right? Um, Gina, Lola, Bridget, Angela. Kids don't listen to the radio, yeah, and that I was going to say that. So let's see what Angela has to say about this. Kids don't listen to the radio, and we don't have radio like we did back in the day. DJs have more freedom to play what they wanted, introduce listeners to new music bands. So it's so different. And, I do remember that late 60s, early 70s, where DJs had a lot of power. Of course, as the 70s went on, they started record companies bringing out A&R men developed on the fact that people like Peter Grant was a manager, band member, good friend, and AR man all rolled up into one. And so they started hiring people to, represent the band, artist and repertoire. Yes, we'll give you 10,000 this week and a remaining 10,000 per week as long as sales indicate this and that. And by the way, you got to show up here, there, and everywhere because we gave you your advance. And now you got to perform like monkeys on a string, puppets on a string, I should say, or monkeys in a zoo, right? And I think the A&R man was one of the early enemies of rock and roll. Napster was another one. A lot of forms of music suffered under that, right? Every time you see it becoming more corporate, every time you see subdividing of responsibilities within the music industry, you start receiving less and less original output by artists, or even an expectation of original output by original artists, because half of the record companies now probably got their greedy little hands even into the touring. Certainly their manager does in his dealings with any kind of record connections. Everybody's getting part of their pot sweetened, baby, every single time. It's a money making business with Molly Hatchet making 75 grand a show, right? And the Eagles making $3.5 million a show. That's incredible. $3.5 million a show. No wonder they don't want to say so long. No wonder they don't want to say goodbye. And the problem is you've only got Don Henley, the only remaining Eagle, and he's lip syncing, so you don't even have Don Henley. You've got a moving corpse up there. And that's why the Eagles didn't make any money for the Las Vegas Sphere. U2 did, and there was only 3/4 of that band there, but at least there was 3/4 of the band showing up. People are getting wise to the fact, and there's some black history with the Eagles, right? And Don Henley is touring on his own with special things. I mean, I don't know. With him, I think it's the money with him. It's always the money, but it's also for him. It's control. It's control. And when he had Glenn Frey around to be the mouthpiece, he could sit back and immediately, and then Glenn would come out and translate it for us. Well, that motherfucker didn't show up, and I told him, "You dead? I'm going to kill you." When I said, "I'm going to kill you," right? And off goes Don Felder into the sunset. Well, there's no Glenn Frey to be at least the honorable big mouth that he was. I had more respect for Glenn Frey, and I didn't have a whole lot for him than I ever have for Don Henley. You want proof? Go ahead and watch, and I brought this up before, but it's been a while. Go ahead and watch their reunion when they got together and they did the big acoustic, on a dark desert highway. Don Felder's there and everything. And yeah, in the DVD, they have the orchestra and then the band's conductor who is conducting the orchestra. And, Don Henley's sitting there listening and he's just kind of going like this. Oh my God. Oh my God. And somebody goes, yes, yes, like he's a prima donna or something. God, I hate people like this. Well, just like he used to do with Glenn Fry. But, the mics are turned up, and you turn it and crank it to 10, you can hear him say, well, the problem is they playing like a lot of white people. Oh, ye expert of black culture, Don. Good freaking Lord. Can you black it up? I guess is what he wants. Oh yes. Oh, let's do it. And they get on and they're doing this. And it's the New York song, whatever that. It's not my favorite Eagle song or Don Henley song at all. New York Minute. And they have these bluesy violins. And who the hell does this guy think he is? Scott Joplin? No. You play a little bit of acoustic guitar and you drum. You don't understand a damn thing about music theory, but you want to appear important because they went to the point of including that as bonus material in that DVD. And he comes off looking like a freaking asshole, which is what Don Henley is. All right. I respect the hell out of him as a songwriter. I respect the hell out of him as a vocalist. And he's not a bad drummer. And especially the original idea of the band. I was a big fan of his. I'm still a big fan of his. I am still going to get those Eagle albums I want and put more money in his pocket, but I won't put a dime in his coffers to see a band that claims to be the Eagles that has one guy, a dead corpse showing up, a moving corpse on the stage, and he can't even be bothered singing. And how do they mix it? And how do they get your attention off all of that? Well, let's put him on a stage inside this giant, colossal, inverted TV and throw up a bunch of images on the wall and watch the monkeys by. Yeah, not for me. Sorry, Caitlin. She loves the place. She loves the place. Let me see what else you guys are talking about before we shut this down. We've been going a good piece. I got to a lot of your comments, but good comment, Angela. See what you did? You got me all riled up, But it is true. We're missing a whole lot. The generation today is missing a whole lot of what we got, but we've got to find a way to make it palatable for them to want to listen or to learn. We've got to use multimedia. We've got to be willing to talk about rock fixed in time and make room for new rockers to come. I'm telling you, in the 70s, nobody was going to pull back Led Zeppelin, Foreigner, or Toto, or Journey, or Santana. They got their start a little earlier, but they got big in the 70s, right? Nobody was going to stop them to have their time in the limelight. Not the Beatles, not the Stones, not Paul McCartney and Wings, although McCartney was strong enough to actually have a 70s output himself. But he didn't put the kibosh on any new blood arriving. The 80s, Led Zeppelin couldn't stop the Police, the Clash, Duran Duran, U2, right? Or the arrival of freaking Michael Jackson, which was an introduction to a whole lot of singles artists. The same thing that happened between 2000 and 2010 and continues to happen. But that every Mickey Mouse Club former member all of a sudden had a musical career. Bop, bop, bye. How do you like that, Caitlin? Not a fan of boy bands. Nope. Not a fan of hip hop. Not a fan of Mickey Mouse girl singers. Not a fan of Madonna. Sorry. Sorry, never have. Never liked a single song by her. Ever. She never. I never understood the big draw for you know Madonna. And of course, Madonna had her not in the 2000s, but with the 80s. Uh, and whatever in the hell happened to Madonna? They've got this automatron up there with a completely different face now. Scary looking face. Madonna's ghost. All right, let me see if I can shut this thing down with any fantastic final insights from you people. Uh, oh, John Foster, thank you so much, brother. And nothing but just $5. John Foster, you are a rock star. I use that, and all of you people in my next regular video will get your shout out. Everybody here, as well as the shout outs from last night. I got to tell you, last night was a record breaker for us. We never got that many, that high of an amount from shout outs, and Ben Scheidegger was like the star of the show, and here comes several hefty ones today. And of course, Storm Cop coming in and said, I'm old school, baby. Sorry, I'm late. You guys rock. All right. You already paid for this stream. I feel more than blessed. How do you feel, babe? They paid for this stream last night. I made a deal with you. If I could get 3 super thanks, I'll follow this up rather than doing like a Wednesday or a Thursday night. I'll just do this tomorrow night since we got this poll going, right? And get it all together. So here it is all wrapped up, folks. We've got a lot of people who are comfortable with this. We got a lot of people who are uncomfortable with this. What I would ask, and when you watch this again, because all of your comments here in the peanut gallery, as soon as I sign off, they go away, right? But rewatch it, or at least go back. You can freeze it. You don't have to rewatch it. I'm hard to take a second time. I understand that. But type in some responses on ideas that you have, that how we can get past this. Because I hear Michael when he's saying, I just want to hear it. I want to hear it at its very best. Okay, there's got to be a way to do that. See, there's got to be a way for us to have our cake and eat it too. Michael wants to hear as close to the record. So do I. Live. I'm much more forgiving of mistakes, though. The musician in me wants to see it, right? But I want the best show also. When I watched The Who, and they were doing tons of material from Who's Next, and you heard those, well, that's backing tracks. So I'm not dead set against backing tracks all the way, just heavy reliance on it, and somebody is not actually playing or not actually singing. I think that's cheating. But why can't we get to a point that, look, this isn't Foreigner, we'll call it Foreigner's Ghost. Kelly Hansen can sing his heart out. I wouldn't have any problem with them anymore, right? If they get to an orchestra part, bring on the orchestra. Let's really do this up big time. Make them worth top dollar. Bring on a real orchestra. You don't need backing tracks. Then charge $200 for the outer ring. Okay? Fireworks, incredible light show. And then even have them dress up like the original members. Have Kelly Hansen wear a curly blonde wig. Let's go all the way in. There's an idea. There's an approach. If it's going to be virtual, which is what it is now, it's virtual, then let's virtually go to virtuality, right? What do you guys think of that idea? Or do you have other ideas? Because I want to see a respect to those. I understand we can't let go of those hits. Oh, God, every time I hear a live band play a great rendition of a great rock classic, God, I go right into the groove. I'm listening. I'm dividing the instruments in my head. Ooh, he didn't play it quite that way. You missed a part there. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy, that part was spot on. Oh, this guy's got an incredible range. And You know, he's doing it identically to Led Zeppelin's, whatever it is. Okay, I'm not against keeping rock alive currently by promoting the classic rock hits. They are deserving of that kind of audience, but I think we need a more honest approach. And I frankly do, with due respect to these classic artists, I don't give a damn if they didn't spend their youth and save up for a rainy day, and that their primary reason is because of financial gain. I just don't give a damn anymore about that, right? They all certainly made usually millions of dollars on us. And if they couldn't wisely spend that, I am not willing to be, and I've said this before, their freaking 401k plan. Just not interested in it. I don't care what their financial needs are, right? Nobody else is caring about what my financial needs are in life. I don't get to, show up or have somebody, my replacement, show up at the hospital I worked at for over 25 years and claim to be Michael Noland. And then I get the bulk, I'll give him 30% of my old paycheck. That'd be nice. Wish I could get away with it. What about you guys? Wouldn't that be nice? Send in a proxy. Yeah, let him work for me. I'll give him a quarter of my pay. Then I'll just sit back here and make YouTube videos and streams. All right, folks, you guys have been great. This has been a great conversation. I hope you carry it on with the replay, right? And let me know what you think. If I missed all of you, I'm on the small little iPad here. My big iPad I actually use to stream from. I'm using my front angle camera. And often I'm trying to get myself so you to look like I'm looking away from you, is because I'm watching my image and making sure I'm well framed. All right. So if I don't look straight at you all the time, understand that's part of this whole streaming thing. And in my videos, I always try to maintain eye contact. I was always told as a young man by my mama is you look a man in the eye when you talk to him. And I always try to do that, folks. I try to be as honest and straight up. And once again, I don't have the answer for everything. I actually asked more questions, I think, tonight than I gave opinions on. If you really think about the territory we covered, are they making, do they have a right to make the money that they're making? Especially when you get to bands like the Eagles, $3.5 million a concert. I don't even want to talk about. All I want to do is demand of that artist. I better get $3.5 million worth of entertainment, whether I paid 200 for the outer ring or 16,000 for a special meet and greet. I better get a damn great show for that, right? All right, folks, as always, you guys have been terrific. I'm not sure how many we got. I think we got probably up into the 60s at least at one point. Mondays are Monday, right? Not always the greatest time. Everybody's busy. They've been off on the weekend, some of you anyway. And Monday, you gotta, I gotta go to the store, gotta go pay those bills, gotta go down to the post office, whatever it is, right? And early evening and all of that. But I appreciate every single one of you for showing up. Let everybody know about what's going on here, because the tribal forum is where I get a chance to talk to you in the real and now, right? My pre-made videos are kind of all pre-packaged, but here, and I respond to your comments on those videos, but it's always usually like a day late and a dollar short as far as timely communication. And that's one of the main reasons I went to streaming anyways. Let's get a one-to-one thing going here as much as we can. And let me know what you think we can do to improve the chances of rock and roll, which is in ICF right now, and in an iron lung. What can we do to remove rock and roll from that iron lung and get them to the level of aqualung, right? It's the best I could do in the last 5 seconds of the stream here. All right, folks. Kimberly and I both love all of you so much. She continues to be amazed by you. When I go over what I didn't get before I shut everything down, I'm amazed. And every time, oh, I just saw Novus Nick is in here. Sorry, I didn't get to any of your stuff, Novus. Doc Insomnia didn't get to too much of you. Jorge Pita didn't get to too much of you, but I saw you all in there. I was trying to respond to specifics tonight, guys. Um, Rockin' Robin Bird, Able Bodied, Divining Dragon, Storm Cop, Angela, Royce in the House, Deuces Wild, Able Body, I think I said, Ben Scheidecker, congratulations on 6 years. That is, oh man, you're a two percenter. 98% of all alcoholics die as a direct result of their disease. That makes you a two percenter. That makes you a monster, man. Congratulations, brother. And let's see, Doc Insomnia already said that. Anybody else I'm missing here? Oh, Zep Earl Vance, thank you for supporting by watching Zep. And he cut me to the quick today, didn't he? A slap it, boom, square. Caitlin, of course, the magnificent and divine. Caitlin Stoddard
Yeah.
was in there. Jason Ladd. Who else do we have here? Am I missing anybody? Boy, this is the problem. You start reading them off and then you miss something. Lauren's go, he's had it in for me, Mildred, right? John Ziggy Kelleher. Rock on, brother. In the free world. Love the message. Love the message. Douglas Gilbert was in the comments. Boy, a whole lot of you. Of course, Bill Hawkins. Arch Smolsky, I think I got to one of your comments today. Let's see. We talked about Jason Ladd. Who else? Just making sure. Just making sure. Scott Lay. Oh, the Scott Lay? Welcome, Scott. Didn't see out there. Welcome from Knoxville, Tennessee. Oh man, we've got such a large audience. We've got Brandon Down in Australia. Sorry, Brandon. And good day. We've got people in New Zealand. We have people in Argentina. We've got people in England. Canada is my second biggest base, but it's being fought quite a bit by both. England's my third biggest base. United States, of course, is my biggest base. But Australia is coming along, baby, kind of kipping in. More of you Aussies are showing up on the show. New Zealanders are showing up on the show. A lot of Mexican people from Mexico are on the show. You've got Central or in the or subscribers. You've got people in Central America and several spots in South America. So we're reaching at times a world audience, and I appreciate that because you know what? When it comes down to it, folks, we're all just human. You know, we have different cultures, and that does affect perhaps our perspective in life, but we're all just human. And if we treated each other with a little respect and a willingness to disagree without it being hammered in your face that you're a dumb shit for disagreeing with me, I think we'd do okay. You know, a tip of the hat, an open door for an individual. Here, I'll get that for you, right? Don't take what doesn't belong to you. Like your neighbor, guard your neighbor's stuff. Be the kind of neighbor that if your neighbor went on vacation, nothing would be disturbed. And I think we'd be a better off society, in my opinion. So those are my final words of wisdom. That's what I've learned in 70 years of living, you know. But anyway, it kind of gets down to that, and I hope that it's reflected in this live stream. I want to thank you for the 42 still watching. A good amount of you still hanging in there to the last drop. I appreciate you all. All right, I'm Michael Noland. By the way, I will be, before I do my final sign off, I do want to say this. In the next couple of days, I've got to decide which. I'm going to either do my next regular video, which is probably the smart thing because I'm already 4 days out since I did my last one. So I need to get something, or I'm going to shoot my next portion for all my new channel members and all my old channel members. And I'm going to have a question for you at the end of that. And I'm going to hope that you will help me. I'm going to ask you all to go over to the replay on this and give me an idea of what you think would be a good 3 or 4 part subject for me to cover on my next set of. I've got a couple of ideas, so it's not like I need this. But then it came to me, these people are putting good hard cash on the line, right? And we got a lot of new members who came in free, and I'd like to keep as many of you as possible. And I thought, well, give them a little power, give them a little input. So my next video, that's why I'm tempted to shoot that next. So we'll see. I've still got to make that decision. Like I said, I'm only a one-man shop. I do my research. I take my notes, kind of look at them. I write my dialogue in my head, like you see me doing on the live here. I shut down. I get it. I put it into my editing program. All the stuff that you see that's extras there. Then I upload it and get it all up there and get it done. I don't have a crew of researchers. I don't have a video editor. I don't have a producer. I'm my own producer, except for on these nights when I actually feel like I'm in an oasis with my wife behind the scenes. Other than that, it's me, bro. So anyway, just to let you know what I'll be doing in the next couple of days and what to be looking for. All right. I'm Michael Noland. This is the bottom line. Like I say every single time, the bottom line, like I see it, as I see it. It's not the bottom line of the tribe. The tribe's bottom line will always be in the comments, right? And that's where we all prove that, well, we are the tribe. Again, Michael Noland, this has been Tribal Forum number 29, and I'll see you in Tribal Forum number 30, which will probably be on Sunday, unless something comes along. I would imagine the next time I'll be maybe Thursday. There's a possibility for Thursday. It depends what happens with these two. Let me know what you think. Dare I stream so soon? All right, folks. Thank you. Love you. And we'll see you on my next stream. Night, all.